Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we are going to be looking at our picks for each club's player who needs a move. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it in the style of Football Daily's We Need to Talk. They inspired this concept today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through every Premier League team and which player needs a move. That can be if they don't fit the system, if they're too good for any reason that they need to move, either good or bad. That's what we're going to get into today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with the Gunners, Arsenal. Now, I was stuck between two. For me, it was Reiss Nelson or Rob Holding. I'm going to go with what Arsenal fans would probably like to hear. I'm not an Arsenal fan. I've gone with Rob Holding. My reason for this is, Arsenal just signed Jurrien Timber for, I believe, 40 million. They've got Ben White. I know he's a right back, but they've got Saliba back on a major contract now. They've got Gabriel. They've got enough centre-backs. Rob Holding, when he came in to replace Saliba, because he got injured last season, he just didn't perform. And I see a lot of Arsenal fans on social media saying he was the reason they bottled the title. Arsenal have moved past him now. He's probably sixth choice centre-back. He's going to be eating wages as well. It's probably not big wages. I don't know Arsenal's wage bill. But I do think he does need to take a few steps down. I'm not saying Championship, but, lower Premier League level. So my pick for Arsenal, a player that needs to move, is Rob Holding. By the way, if you agree or disagree with any of my picks today, just put it down in the comments. Everyone has their opinion. And this is my opinion. So, yeah, Rob Holding for Arsenal. Moving on to Aston Villa, I've gone with Luca Digne. Now, I forgot he played for Aston Villa. I'm not going to lie until I searched him up for this video. Emery brought in Alex Moreno, who has been really impressive at left back. And a common theme I have noticed with Digne is whatever team he goes to, he gets frozen out. So I think there might be a little bit of an attitude problem there. But then again, would Villa want to keep him for depth because they have European football? But yeah, Digne for me, literally every team he's gone to. Barcelona, he got frozen out. Everton, he got frozen out. And now he's frozen out of Villa. So for me, it just makes sense if he moves either to the French League, maybe the Bundesliga, but I can see the French League being his destination. So unless they're keeping him for squad depth, Aston Villa, move on, Luca Digne. Right, now next is Bournemouth. I've discussed two players who are not good enough for your teams with Villa and Arsenal, but now I'm going to upset some Bournemouth fans by suggesting a player that is, in my opinion, too good for you, and that's Philip Billing. He played a good part in their system last season. Whenever I watched, he was impressive. Yeah, I just think he can get a better move. He's got good defensive numbers. He's quite physical. He does suit a sort of top-end team, even if it's just for squad depth. Say, for an example, go into my side, West Ham. He's good squad depth. He might even start, depending on if we actually get linked to some players. That sort of level. I'm not saying he should go, but he does suit that kind of level. Just outside the top six, but not relegation. So, Philip Billing, just because you're too good for where you are, I believe Bournemouth should try and get some money for him. But yeah, I think Philip Billing, get the move while you can. Right, now on to Brentford. I have put down their goalkeeper, David Raya. He'd got 1 year left on his contract, did not want to sign an extension, was in talks with Spurs about a month and a half ago. They pulled out of the deal because Brentford were asking too much. Thomas Frank's brought in a new goalkeeper, so he's not going to be needed unless he chooses to run down his contract. But I don't see a club going in and spending 40 mil on him when he has just over a year left on his contract. So that's the reason I'm putting David Raya forward for a move, just because of how he handled his contract situation. Right, from Brentford to Brighton, one goalkeeper to another. For a move, I've put down Robert Sanchez. He was doing quite well for Brighton, and then towards the final few weeks at the end of the season, or few months, he just randomly got dropped by Roberto De Zerbi. I didn't see why he got dropped, unless someone knows. Brighton fans, if you know, probably fell out with the manager or something. This was a man who was keeping David De Gea out of the Spanish team. He's keeping Kepa out of the Spanish team. So it's not like he's not quality, but he has been dropped for Jason Still. And, Jason's still not the greatest goalkeeper. Formerly been in Championship sides, very low-level Premier League sides. But De Zerbi's put faith in Still, and he's relegated Sanchez to the bench or reserves. I do think he'll be a good goalkeeper for some teams, especially down near the middle to lower part of the Premier League. I think it's a good deal for a club to get. A disgruntled goalkeeper means he'll probably go for less. Brighton will want him off the books, maybe. But, yeah, we'll wait and see. So, for Brighton, I've gone with Robert Sanchez. Right, next is one of the 3 new promoted teams. It is Burnley, and this time they are coming into the Prem under Vincent Kompany. Played some brilliant football in the Championship, absolutely stormed it and rightfully gained promotion. Now, the player I think that should move on is Wout Weghorst. I think it's pretty obvious why he should move. He's very much a Sean Dyche player, he's big, he's a unit, he'll just battle for everything. And not saying company side won't have grit, but they want to play better football than just lumping it up top to their big, massive forwards. And I'll be honest, would not surprise me if he rocks up in an Everton shirt, because he's a very Sean Dyche signing, and that's not a problem. He might actually do well for Everton, but I just don't think he will fit in company's system of playing good football. I do think he is not good for the system that company wants to play. So Burnley, try and get the money for Wout Weghorst. On to Chelsea now, but I've gone with Callum Hudson-Odoi. Got injured just as he was coming into a bit of form under Tuchel, but he just he never recovered form. He never got picked. He was never desired by any manager. Went on loan to Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga. Following the Jadon Sancho route and the Jude Bellingham route, young English player out to Germany, helps their career, but he fell out of favour there. Xabi Alonso didn't really fancy him. But, he's still young, he's 22, 23, so there is time to recover his career. Maybe just take a step down in the Prem. Maybe go to someone like Fulham or maybe even West Ham, just an example, just that sort of level of the Premier League. Because I still think he is a good player, but is he willing to take the step down? I think he should, to recover his career. But for Chelsea, I've gone with Callum Hudson-Odoi. Sticking in London, we are going with Crystal Palace next, and I have put down Jean-Philippe Mateta. He was bought in a couple seasons ago or a season ago, but he was hyped up saying he's going to add so much to this Palace side, he's going to make them even better up front, and he just hasn't done that. I see all very low scoring numbers for him. I know Palace didn't really create a lot under Vieira, and they somehow got better under Hodgson, but even then he still wasn't bagging. I didn't expect him to bag 20 goals, but he wasn't bagging in the way Palace needed him. And they got Edouard, who was coming into it last season. They got Eze. I don't know if Zaha will stay on, but I think they've got just other ways of getting goal outputs. So I can see Mateta either wanting to move or a French team maybe comes in for him. But yeah, it just hasn't quite worked out at Palace for him. He's very hyped, but for me, I think he needs to get the move away just to get firing again. So for Crystal Palace, Jean-Philippe Mateta. Moving on to Merseyside now, with Everton, I've gone with Tom Davies. I just don't think he's good enough for Everton. And the way they performed last season, that's saying a lot. Whenever I see him play, there's no midfield presence compared to the likes of Doucouré and Onana. They're ready to battle for that ball. Doucouré getting some very clutch goals for Everton at the crunch time and end of the season. Tom Davies didn't really do that. He didn't really shine or stand out for Everton over the course of the season. I know that was hard to do for Everton because of how shocking they were, and they were very lucky to survive. Let's have that down. He just has no midfield presence. He's not that sort of Sean Dyche player either. He's not going to dive into tackles, get all gritty and horrible. It's not going to work. So maybe I think a drop down to Championship would suit Tom Davies more. I just don't think he's Premier League quality personally, and I think they can get better midfielders in. Someone that will show some battle and some desire. I just don't think he's the right midfield man for Everton, to be honest. And with that, I'm putting him down for a move away from the Toffees. Right, now Fulham. Before you'll get in the comment at me for including this player, I'm putting players down for moves for any circumstance. Doesn't have to be negative. And I see this as a positive, as I did with Philip Billing. I've gone for Paulinho to get a move away from Fulham. I think he performed excellent last season, was actually a really good signing for Fulham. And, he's being linked away. He's being linked to a lot of clubs, including my club, West Ham. We recently had a 45 million bid rejected for him because Fulham are valuing him at 80 million. That's what I fear will happen. I fear Fulham will outprice him. They'll outprice him for a move, and then he'll be disgruntled and will not want to play for the club, which does happen in football now. Fulham just need to lower their price a little bit, and I think just let him move on, because otherwise you're going to get a midfielder who will not want to play for you, eating up wages. I know they kind of have to keep players now with Mitrovic. I think it's confirmed he's gone to Al Hilal, so they do need to keep their players. But at the same time, if clubs are coming in and your player is maybe angling for a move, so yeah, Paulinho, I think he should get a move away just because clubs are coming in for him, and I think his head will be turned. Heading back to Merseyside now, for Liverpool, I've put down Joe Gomez. The reason why I think he needs to move away is he's never solidified himself as a starting centre-back. He's been there for quite a while now. I remember he signed, not a big extension, but a 2 or 3 year contract extension, even when he wasn't starting. I don't know if he holds this dream of that he'll start one day, but I just don't see him ever starting. And when he does play, he always gets injured or he doesn't perform well. I just don't think Joe Gomez suits Liverpool. I just don't think he's good enough for Liverpool. I think he can do a job in the Prem, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think he's Liverpool standard. You know, they've got Van Dijk, they've got Kanate. I don't know if Matip's out the door, but the way Liverpool are going, they'll probably sign another centre-back. He's just very low down in the pecking order, and he just seems to be holding on to this hope that he'll become a starting centre-back. But I don't think that will happen. Whereas I think he should leave the club and he can get first-team football. There'll be loads of clubs that will offer him first-team football if he can keep his injury record clean. I just think it's better for his career if he gets a move away from the Reds, personally. But let me know in the comments what you think below. Right, on to the surprise team that they came up. It was a massive shock they came up. Well, for me it was anyway. I don't really keep track of the Championship. For Luton, I have no one. I'm not going to lie and pretend I know the Luton squad. I don't know their squad. I don't know who needs to move away. All I know is that they're Championship quality. And to put the whole team in is a cop-out because you're not going to get a whole new team in one window. It's just not going to happen. You can add to a team and hopefully it improves them. But for Luton, I can't really think of anyone. So I'm going to leave that down to you lot. You guys can comment or anything like that who you think needs to move away from Luton because, like I said, I know nothing about that team. Feel free to put your suggestions down below for what player needs to move away from Luton. Right, now on to the big boys, the treble winners, the Premier League champions last season, Manchester City. Now, I spoke about this with our editor and Man City supporter Connor. We came to, not an agreement, but we both thought Aymeric Laporte. He said he just doesn't feel he's quality enough for Man City. He's still a good player. There's just too many players above him in the pecking order. You've got Ake, you've got Stones, Diaz, Akanji, and no Man City there. You might bring in another defender. Yeah, it's just no game time there for him. And I think he can do a job still in the Prem. It's still a good standard of the Prem. So I just think he needs to move away before he rots on the bench. My player for Man City is Aymeric Laporte. Now on to their City rivals, Manchester United. And I think this is an easy one. It's been very public in the news about who they want gone, and I think he should leave the club. I think it is Harry Maguire. In a way, it's kind of sad because he is a good defender on his day, but the way Man United play, he just gets exposed time and time again. And I just don't think he's of that calibre. I don't think he should even be Man United captain. I don't think he's quality enough to captain Man United, but he's still good enough to play at a decent level in the Prem. He's a nailed on England starter. He does have his pros, but he's had too many bad times at Man United, and I think it's just better for him, his career, maybe his mental health, to leave Man United and start afresh, find a new system, and maybe find some England form, because he's actually brilliant for England. He's an aerial threat, he's a brick wall at times for England, and I think if he moves away from Man United and maybe to a different club, West Ham have been linked with him, Tottenham have been linked with him, Chelsea have been linked with him, so there's still some higher quality teams there, and Tottenham. He can do better at a different club, just get a fresh start, find a new system. Maybe you won't be captain again, but still playing for a decent club, and I think, so for Man United, I've gone with Harry Maguire. On to Newcastle now, and it was a very good finish to the season for them, getting Champions League football for the first time. But I think a player that should get the move away is Matt Ritchie. Just haven't heard his name. I don't even think he comes off the bench. Newcastle fans, does he play for you? Where does he play? And I think with this way of new money for Newcastle, I know obviously they can't spend as much as they would possibly like, financial fair play. I just can see him getting turfed out. He already prefers Dan Burn, who's a natural centre-back at left-back. And I think that's where Ritchie was forced to play in the end under Newcastle. I just don't see him getting in the team. So I think he can get a move away, maybe to a Championship team, maybe a bottom end Premier League team, but I just don't think he'll suit Newcastle's new regimen anymore. So Matt Ritchie, get out of St James's Park. On to Nottingham Forest now. I have gone with Romeo Freuler. Bought in from Atalanta. He's meant to be like the marquee midfielder, but he just didn't adapt to the Premier League, and Forest did a Forest and just brought in loads of other midfielders. And they finally got to gel and they found a system. Gibbs White was performing. Brennan Johnson was on fire. Keylor Navas, although he was on loan, pretty much saved them single-handedly some days. And I think Freuler should move just because he hasn't adapted. There's so many players above him in the pecking order and younger. Maybe a move back to Serie A. Maybe Atalanta will take him back. Who knows? I don't know Serie A teams. I don't know their midfielders. But I think a move back to Serie A might be the best move for Freuler. Capture some form that he once had. Moving away from the City ground, Romeo Freuler. Right, now the last of the newly promoted teams, Sheffield United. Sander Berge, he put up really good defensive numbers. He's a really good defensive midfielder. And like Billin, who I was previously mentioned in this video, he is an absolute unit, 6'5". People were apparently surprised he was still in a championship with Sheffield. Can, get a move above the likes of Sheffield, who I don't know how they'll do next season. I'm not going to talk too much because we do have an upcoming predictions video that we need to film. But apart from that, I think Sander Berge can possibly go to a better team, and I guess we'll see how that plays out. So for the Blades, Sander Berge, get out of Sheffield into a different team. Now on to Tottenham Hotspur, and I think there's only one player that's going to be put down. It is Harry Kane. Bayern Munich will come in for him, 86 million bids plus add-ons, I do believe. Apparently PSG are planning a monster bid for him. I think his head will be turned. PSG, Bayern Munich, you guaranteed trophies. Harry Kane is too good of a player to end on a career with near to no trophies or no trophies. But I think he'll want to stay because he is loyal to a T, and that's, it swings and roundabouts. It's good that he's loyal, but it's also holding him back from achieving so much more in his career. He's Tottenham's all-time goal scorer, he's England's all-time goal scorer. The man scores goals. And I think if he went to PSG, he would rip the French league apart more than Mbappe would. That's controversial, but I think he would do so much more damage than Mbappe, just because he's such a pure finisher. Same with Bayern Munich. If he went to Germany, he would have ripped the Bundesliga to shreds. I reckon he would get nearly Erling Haaland numbers. Well, I think he'd better Erling Haaland numbers. I think the only reason he's staying is to maybe break Shearer's record of all-time Premier League goal scorer. So as much as I could sit here and praise Harry Kane for how good a player he is, I think he should just get the move away from Tottenham now. Just go and destroy leagues, break more records, and finally get some trophies in your cabinet, Harry. But yeah, Harry Kane, I think, should move from Tottenham. Right, now on to my club, West Ham. I think the player that should get a move away from us is Pablo Fornals. No, it's not because I don't like him. I do like him. I think he is a really good player. But, he was just resorted to, cameos off the bench last season. And I think he is quality. He showed moments of quality for us. He helped us get through to the Conference League final. Did quite well when he came off the bench in some Prem games. But, when we signed him, it was a big thing. And I was like, this player from Villarreal, he's ripping up the Spanish league. We signed him. He's played well, but he's just inconsistent. He just couldn't find any form of consistency. Don't see him starting. Then again, he might do, because, we've released Manuel Lanzini, which was quite sad. But I do think Spanish teams would be in for him. He's still a decent age. I think he's 25, 26. But I think he can offer a lot to some Spanish teams, and Spanish teams recently are getting raided for their players. So maybe a club in Spain will pick him up. I don't know, maybe like Valencia or Villarreal or a Real Sociedad maybe. And, he can start to find the form he found when we signed him. So, yeah, for us, I've gone with Pablo Fornals. Right, now finally on to Wolves. So I have gone with, who did I put down? Pedro Neto. Now the reason I put him down, but I just remember him, I think in the 21-22 season, he was electric. He was amazing for them. And he's just dropped off, and he turned into an average player like most of that Wolves team. But I just think Pedro Neto has dropped off, and I think there will still be clubs interested in him. I can see maybe a Spanish team that I'd probably go in for him. Maybe a move back to Portugal, but Pedro Neto just hasn't been the same as he was 2 or 3 seasons ago. Is the case for Pedro Neto, or he might be kept because they have lost another winger in Adama Traore. But yeah, I just think Pedro Neto should get a move on from Wolves. Again, like most of these players, he'll rediscover some form because Wolves are slowly becoming very, very average, even below average. They lost Neves to Saudi Arabia. João Moutinho didn't renew a contract. Just their players just aren't that good anymore. Yeah, I just think I think Wolves need a rebuild and they need it fast. And there we have it, guys. There is, well, not our list, but my list of players from each Premier League team that need a move away or should try and get a move away. What do you think? Do you agree with my suggestions? Do you disagree? Do you have your own opinions? Let us know down in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one, guys.